But joining us now from The Athletic, Anthony Slater. Anthony, thanks so much for hopping on with us in the middle of June. We appreciate that immensely, man. Thank you.
James Ham on assignment. I hope that means like he's scouting draft prospects in Europe right now.
Down in Cabo specifically. Yeah,
hard at work right now.
Yeah,
you could probably find like a late second rounder, a stash prospect down in Cabo, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So I think that's 100%. He actually texted me yesterday. I told him I was like, dude, go on vacation, be away, go hang out. And he's like, yeah, I got it. And then I get a text from him yesterday. He's like, I'm watching Ron Holland tape, and I see this and that, blah blah blah. I was like, all right, man.
As long as he's doing that on the beach with like a margarita, on his phone or something. I mean, I don't mind. Some people relax that way.
Yeah, I would imagine if he's doing that, that's 100% how he's taking that in.
I gotta say that'd be tough though. Some trade broke while he's on vacation.
Yeah, it'd be a little tough.
Well, love James Ham, but if you're picking a week that might happen, this might be that week.
For sure. So let's actually talk about that. You and Sam Amick wrote an article in The Athletic that came out yesterday. I have a couple things I want to get to from the article specifically, but the Alex Caruso trade possibility in there was really interesting. It was the 13th pick as the key piece in this swap for Alex Caruso. Was that something where Zach LaVine was also involved in that, or was that just strictly Alex Caruso coming to the Kings in that deal?
From my understanding, that was more of just a Caruso deal. I'm skeptical Zach LaVine gets moved at all this summer just because of what the contract is and what, the Bulls are in searching for, assets and stuff. And like, to be honest, it's just a completely negative value contract. Mm-hmm. So yes, from my understanding, it was just a Caruso thing. There was buzz that the Bulls were looking for picks in this draft. And, it's a lottery pick. It's late lottery. I think they were close. I think they were one of the more appealing offers on the table. Obviously the Bulls pivoted to Josh Giddey. Some people would think that's a terrible move. We'll see, it's a chance that works out really well. I mean, Josh Giddey's got a lot of really good counting numbers. I think it's a fair argument to say, like, you're not going to get better than Josh Giddey at 13th in this particular draft, but you're at least going to get year one of a rookie deal compared to year 4 of Josh Giddey's rookie deal, which is about to be extension eligibility with leverage on his side. But to your overall point, they were close on Caruso, very close from my understanding, but obviously it didn't get done, which is kind of been the story a little bit of the, Kings transaction windows the last few times.
What do you think the value of the 13th pick is? Like, do you think you can land him like a Kyle Kuzma type or?
Yeah, I think it's like dependent on who's available and dependent on what front office you're talking to. And honestly, it might come down to one of those, like, who's there on the clock. And, if let's theorize, you mentioned Kyle Kuzma. It's a good team to theorize with the Wizards, right? Because they're all about the next decade, not like next season. So if, X prospect who they love is there at 13, I don't know, name your Ron Holland or somebody drops to 13 and they happen to just really like him, then maybe suddenly there's a lot more value to them in the 13th pick because of who they now know they can get at the 13th pick. Obviously, if you're just going year by year, looking at the draft, this is a lower level 13th pick than past years. But I would say it's more flat at 13 than it is at like 1, 2, 3. Like if you're the Hawks right now, imagine the value of the first pick this year on the open market compared to the first pick last year if the Spurs decided to shop that around. So sure. It's not necessarily apples to apples, but I think it's appealing enough. I think, you get closer to the draft, you study some of these guys, like there's potential rotation players out there. And some team will like somebody that falls to 13.
Anthony Slater of the Athletic joining us now. How intent are the Kings on trading that 13th pick, or are they ready to use it if a deal like a Caruso type of trade doesn't materialize?
Yeah, I mean, look, they've done their due diligence, right? They've had a bunch of guys in the facility. I think they're ready to make the pick. I think Monty McNair has shown, and that front office has shown they're good at drafting. And I think it's numbers models, but also like I think at their core, they're kind of like a more scouting math front office than like a big trade, big move front office. But also, I think they have a clear-eyed understanding of the arc of where they are right now, which is like 26-year-olds help more than 20-year-olds, and 5-year pros, 8-year pros, a Bruce Brown, name your like mid-tier rotation player. Like he's just going to help the Kings win a game in March, a game in May, a game whenever next year. Very likely more than McCain, Zach Edey, Ron Holland, naming, even if, maybe 3 years from now, you'd much rather have one over the other. So I think there's, we put it in the piece, but like there's more of an appetite if they can to swing for somebody that'll just help you win more next season. But it's also a pragmatic front office that I don't think is going to be desperate enough where they make a trade that value for value isn't that great. But they just feel like they have to.
Do you think, like, say they like, do you think they're I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but they think they're all like happy if they do make the pick and like that's what's going on at the end of the draft that night? Like, there's no deal.
Yeah, look, I know like their front office guys have been having private workouts in there. Some of those prospects that might be there at 13, I think they're more interested in others. And like Mike Brown's been in there for some workouts, and like they have to be prepped to make the pick. And like it's not impossible to get a guy at 13 that surprises and gets into a rotation. Kyle, I know you follow the Warriors well. Like, they draft Brandon Pajemski 19th last year. I remember, like, this guy's so far away. I don't even know what type of pick he's going to be. By the second month of the season, it's like, oh, this is like their fourth best player. He's their best plus-minus guy. Like, you need to do your due diligence enough to know, like, what if you do fall in love with a guy that you do think is a winning type player, particularly on the defensive end. To me, they're looking for like sharper defensive upgrades. I mean, Caruso obviously is a name. I mentioned Bruce Brown. I think Kyle Kuzma is guys that can come in and, they can score some for you. And they're not going to be a complete net negative offensively, but they got to help both ways. Because I think this team is trying to reform and already did kind of reform in the last couple months last year into more of a two-way team than 2 seasons ago.
Anthony Slater of The Athletic joining us now. Check out his piece with Sam Amick posted in The Athletic yesterday. How much of there was a nugget in there about DeAaron Fox.
Yeah.
And he hasn't signed his extension yet because he wants to see how the roster shakes out. He wants to win at the highest level, but also wants to wait and see if he makes All-NBA because then that can maximize his earning potential. How... What's a bigger factor between those two things? Because I read that and I kind of go panic meter a little bit. Like, they need to win for him to stay. How big of a concern is that?
I mean, it just gives a level of control to DeAaron Fox within the situation. You hand back over control when you just pledge for 5 years. I mean, that's just how the league works. That's how it works with stars. I mean, there's certainly, and it shouldn't come off as us reporting like clock is ticking. He's looking at, elsewhere. There's none of that going on, but it's an ability to reassess as this stuff goes along and to have more control over his future because he is entering his mid prime and primes can go quickly in this league. Look at John Wall, right? Who's like begging to get back in the league at this point. So I just think he has made a calculated decision that obviously there's financials involved because again, yes, if he makes All-NBA, there's like an extra 5% of the cap that he can suddenly absorb, but also there is a desire from him to like see where this is going with the Kings, and I think there's a lot of, next season's become pretty massive for them, right? As it felt like you had the honeymoon Mike Brown first year where like everything was great. This past season, I think, is probably viewed more negatively than it really was. It felt like a little bit of a stabilization year that just wrong time to win 46 games, wrong time for Malik Monk to get hurt, bad night in New Orleans, and suddenly the season feels a lot worse than it actually was. But this kind of has to be the trampoline year. I think we're going to know a lot more after the moves they make and then how those moves work next season about where this thing is really going in the next 3 to 5 year window. And I think DeAaron Fox, part of it is financially, but part of it, he knows he can, if he sits back, watches the next season, he'll also know a lot more where this is going. And he does want to win, right? He wants to play in West Finals and NBA Finals. We'll know if that's realistic or not for the Kings probably by like middle of next season.
Do you think they need to make like a significant move, or I don't know if that's like, or do you think they can count on like maybe drafting the 13th pick and counting on Keegan Murray taking another step this year?
Depends on what they're trying to do, right?
I maybe think they into the second round this year of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, could they get to the second round with just internal development? I mean, it would need to be a big Keegan Murray leap, which, I mean, like talking maybe all-star type leap, and I don't know that that's necessarily coming. But they might need that anyways, even if they do make a significant move. But to me, a significant move doesn't have to be, Levine, Brandon Ingram. Like, again, it can be like if Alex Caruso suddenly on this team, like if that had happened, like, you plug him in as your, some nights your third or fourth most important player, some nights your sixth or seventh. It feels like a more full rotation. If it is a Kuzma, like they just need more. They felt thin at the end of last year, right? When you're watching them in the playing games or down the stretch when they were losing those key games late, especially once Monk went out, it was just like, man, it's you're starting to look at more really a 6-7 man rotation. Mike Brown was down to playing 8 guys by the time they got late in the season. I just think they need another guy comfortably playing 25 to 30 minutes, can score for you, can defend for you, can give you more lineup versatility, along with bringing everybody back. And I think if you sacrifice the 13th pick, you're okay with that.
Anthony Slater of The Athletic joining us now. Hey, I want to shift gears real briefly. Is there any salvaging the Klay Thompson thing for the Warriors?
Depends on who you talk to. A lot of people say no. Obviously I've put out there that like it's going in a very bad direction at this point. Now, like there's still time left. There's still conversations to be had. There's still, actual money and offers eventually to be put on the table, not only by outside suitors, but eventually the Warriors will come to Klay Thompson with an offer, which they have not at this point. So like, I don't think there's been the final conversation of like, it's over, it's done. Like I'm leaving for sure. But that's the way it's been trending, and that's the way it's been trending for a while now. And there are a lot of reasons for it. And again, if I had to predict at this moment, and my prediction is informed by what many people around the situation are telling me, is that he's probably leaving, but that could change.
Dang. Real quick, you mentioned Malik Monk a little bit ago. I think like Kings fans, obviously they're all happy and stuff like that. He signed, but do you think like why like what do you think the market was like from? Like I think it was maybe a little surprising that he signed so early.
Yeah, I think that Monk's market was what a lot of these free agents right now are facing, which is the balloon payment, shorter term deals. That I think was kind of brought in vogue last year by the Bruce Brown in Indianapolis, the Fred VanVleet in Houston, where these teams, especially like Orlando, Oklahoma City right now, for example, they know they have monster deals coming up for Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner. So they have a moment to like spend money, but they don't want to overspend where 3-4 years from now they're still playing crazy money because they're going to have to shift that elsewhere. So the offers that are more on the table are like 2 for 50, 2 for 60, but it's 2 where let's say, for example, you're Malik Monk and you're seeing that your market is going to be an offer that is, $25 million a year, $26 million a year. Yeah, but it's 2 for 52. If you are Malik Monk, would you rather, for example, this is speculation, but have a 2 for 52 elsewhere, or stay in Sacramento where clearly he's comfortable and prefers to be on a 4 for 78 where you're getting less per year, but it's 78 million still, like you're getting that, and they put a player option on the 4th year, which means after 3 years, if you still are great, if you do still feel your market is great, you can get back out into free agency still in your 20s. I think that's the factors at play that led him to say 4 for 78 is more appealing than maybe people believed it to be.
Is there any indication that he's going to have a different role next year?
No, I mean, from what we're told, like that wasn't part of the conversation. Now, that's not to say, you're guaranteed to come back for the 6th man. I think it's generally like, number one, let's see what the roster looks like next week, 2 weeks from now. Then let's see how training camp goes, right? You talk to coaches all throughout the offseason, like they come August and September, they're only starting to form plans in their mind. Like, well, how might these lineups look? And then they get to camp and it's like, wow, this group looks great. Wow, that rookie looks awesome. But if I had to predict, I think Keon Ellis probably is the starting 2. But, what if Alex Caruso was on this team? Maybe he's the starting 2. Sure. But the truth is, like, Malik Monk knows he's coming back to a high minutes role. He profiles more as a bench scorer who like electrifies the game in the middle of the 1st and 3rd quarters. I don't think he necessarily loves that long term, but he's reasonable and rational enough, and clearly, right, he just signed back without any guarantees of what his role is, so he understands like his place in the league.
Anthony Slater, you can check him out in The Athletic. Anthony, really appreciate your time, man. We'll do it again soon.
All right, fellas.
See you, man.